Good morning, everyone. I'd like to make you aware that council meetings are available live through Zoom and recordings may be posted online on County of Huron's YouTube channel. You may be seen and or heard as part of these broadcasts, and your name, comments, and or presentation materials will become part of the public record. And with that, I would like to call this meeting to order. And with the approval of the agenda coming, I know last Friday afternoon that if you were told you were going to be reading a 500-page novel over the weekend, you would have said no way. But in fact, you actually did. So this is a fairly extensive agenda, and I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to speak and participate with where you want, but I am going to ask that you keep your comments clear and concise so that we can keep the agenda moving along. So with that, I would look for approval of the agenda. So that's Councillor Bazinet, seconded by Councillor Goderich. Those in favor? That is carried. Is there any pecuniary interest to declare at this time? Seeing none. We have minutes of our previous meeting, and I'd be looking for someone to adopt those minutes. Councillor Vanstone, Councillor Finch would second that. Those in favor? That is carried. Under delegations, petitions, and presentations, we have Jane Mizanski with us, and she's joining us remotely. And Jane is going to be going through council remuneration review with us. So we welcome Jane. And Jane, whenever you're ready, you take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, and appreciate being in front of council again. And I will hopefully not take up too much of your time with a 500-page agenda, so we'll get right to it. I will just share a screen to give me the slide deck, and hopefully that's up and running right now. Excuse me. So basically, Gallagher, as we did the non-union compensation review, we were also engaged to do the review for the council remuneration practices and bylaw or policies. And it was to make sure that the council remuneration, the approach to paying for the time on council is at least aligned to the municipalities of similar size and scope of responsibilities. Unlike the compensation review for staff, where you're looking at competition, you're looking to attract and retain, and it could be across the province that you are looking to do that. Council remuneration really is about making sure that it's the level of compensation is respectful of the role, because they are with a 500-page agenda. That's a lot of time and effort, and due diligence that you're putting into the role. So it's recognizing that time commitment. We want to make sure that it's fair and reasonable, again, respectful of the positions that you hold, and that it's within a framework, that's financially sustainable. So not saying that, we're going through the roof with compensation, but also that we are making sure that it is all of the above bullet points. So the report that we have provided does outline our findings and our observations, and it is being presented for consideration for council. The county review included 8 municipal counties across Ontario. This is a group that we used for the non-union compensation review as well, so there is some continuity. They're of similar size and scope. We developed a survey for the municipality compensation review. We asked other municipalities about base remuneration, per diems that are being paid, when are per diems paid, what are the conditions around the per diem, any other allowable expenses or cash allowances that are provided to councillors and the warden, and any benefits, particularly insured benefits or access to the pension. We tabulated all of the responses and used this as the basis of our analysis. So Huron County is a little bit unique in how they compensate for the councillor's time. It is a base plus per diems approach to paying, and there are 2 other comparators that do that. Bruce County and Perth County also do it. However, Huron County has the lowest base pay, and relatively speaking, it's quite low, and then a little bit higher in the per diem. So it's really a per diem focused compensation approach. In order for us to do some comparisons to make sure that we were doing the analysis, on as much as possible on apples to apples basis, we did the analysis based on what is your base pay and what is the base pay being paid by other municipalities. Then we looked at the per meeting stipends, and we thought, okay, if we give you at minimum 20 meetings per year, a half-day meeting, and we adjusted it based on that stipend. And we did the same for Bruce and Perth as well, and then did a comparison. And then the third way we looked at it was to say, well, what was the actual remuneration paid in 2024? And where does that stand relative to the other comparator organizations? We ended up dismissing the last approach, the actual remuneration, because we had new members of council coming in that had only attended a few meetings. We had other councillors that were there the entire year, and we had a very active warden as well. So we thought that wasn't really a practical approach to doing the comparison. So when we looked at it, we actually said the chart on the slide there shows how the warden and the councillor pays roll out. So we have the base pay for Huron County, for example, warden at $23,245, the adjusted base with the 20 meetings per stipend, or 20 meetings with a stipend being paid, bumped it up to 27.5, and then the actual was 93. As I said, the warden last year in 2024 was quite high, but the average for the councillors, we took the average of all of them, and it's still relatively low. If you look at the comparator market on the other side of the chart, if we look at base to base, the market median, the middle of the market, so the warden is at 23, the market median is at 81. That's a 250% difference. If we look at it even in consideration of the adjusted base, it's 196% off of the comparator organizations. So it's really all to say that the base remuneration, even with the stipend added into it, giving consideration for that, allowing for up to 20 meetings, it is still, you are below the market median. The additional per meeting or per diems that are provided by Bruce and County, they are for attending council meetings, but they also allow for attending council committee meetings and for any time attending out of town conferences. 3 of the comparators provide an additional per diem payment for attending some council meetings and attending conferences. Although Huron County's per diem is the highest of the ones that are paying the per diem, it is for attending the council committee meetings and conferences, so it's a standard rate across all 3. In terms of, if we look at the per diem approach, there's nothing wrong with it. It actually does support a philosophy of you get paid for the work and effort that you put in. If you attend all the meetings, and you get paid for all the meetings. There's, some differences of opinion around the province in terms of whether, the base should be paying for the attendance of the council meetings, and then you get a per diem for other committee or activities. But all in all, there's no, right way or wrong way of communicating or compensating, remunerating for base pay or for council remuneration. Getting twisted here in my words. So it's all to say that although it shows that you are slightly off of market, or you are off of market at the P50. In the end, it was determined, in our opinion, that if it's working for you, why break it? It seems to have been working for the organization. So we are making a recommendation that you maintain your current combination of a smaller base and a higher per diem. Because it does support that principle or philosophy of you get paid for the work that you do. We are suggesting as a best practice that you continue to adjust your base and the allowance by the same economic adjustment or the COLA adjustment that is applied to the non-union group, and that you continue to conduct the market review once per term of council. So apologies in the end, after doing all of the analysis, that we are basically saying continue with your status quo, because we did not come up with any evidence to suggest that that there's a strong evidence to move off of this approach. And I think that's the end of my slides.
Thank you, Jane. I'm going to go to council. If there's any questions or comments that you can direct to Jane. Councillor Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I certainly agree with the recommendation. I feel that we are properly compensated. It is certainly different for us than it is for staff. We're trying to attract people from, as it was stated, could be across the province to come and work for Huron County. So you have to make it worth their while. I don't want people coming to county council because of the paycheck. I want people coming to county council because they have a desire to be here to do something. So I'm quite happy with the remuneration that we receive.
Other comments? Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm quite satisfied with what we're paid here. I think it's fair. I just want to make sure that we keep up with conferences. Some of the expenses in conference registrations and hotel rooms go up and up and up and up and up. And I've noticed that sometimes there's a shortfall in what our conference allocation is compared to what the actual costs are. So I would just throw that out there.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you. I concur with the other two colleagues for a lot of the same reasons. There is one with the recommendation that we as council make a motion that it's going to be done every year. I think that that should be up to the next councils if they wish to do reviews. We're trying to save money. I don't know what this cost exactly. I guess we do have a line, but in the 20 years that I've been on off this council, we've had discussions on this, and we came to the same conclusion. At that time, I remember the councillor from South Huron, Mr. Morley, saying that let's have the per diem. If you're going to the meetings, that should be higher. And that was put in place, and this report even says that it's probably, if you're doing the work, you're being compensated. So I'll make a motion that we accept this report, but that take out the part where the lower tier, that we decide that the next council will be doing a study. Let them do it.
Just for clarification, Councillor Klopp, I think it's once per term of council that this needs to be done.
Well, that's what I meant. But if we pass the motion here, then the next council will be told that, well, this is happening, and maybe let them decide. Have it on the agenda. Do you guys, in the next term of council, do you guys want to have a review of your per diems? Just like we were doing in our term here.
Councillor Finch, please.
Yeah, and the motion just reads to receive as presented as information, so I would be satisfied to move it in the way it is presented. Next term of council can decide what they wish to do, but I think it's generic enough just to proceed as it is.
That's correct. Yeah. So, okay, I think that clarifies what you were thinking, Councillor Klopp. So back to motion being moved. So that's Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Anderson. Those in favor? And that is carried. So thank you, Jane, for making the presentation to us this morning.
Thank you.
We are at councillors' comments on our agenda. Past Warden McCallum, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. The municipality of Huron East has submitted a delegation request to meet with the Minister of the Environment at Roma. This was a very long, big worded speech, so I'm going to simplify it. We're concerned about the move the province is making with recyclables, in the fact that if they are now putting a cap on what the producers have to pay, it's defeating the entire purpose of what the law was to begin with. Our understanding was the reason we were making them pay for the recyclables was that they would make smaller packaging and make it more affordable. But if in fact they've got a cap at, and I don't remember what the number is, 5 or 6% or something like that, they could just raise their cost 5 or 6%, not change anything on the packaging. It does serve no purpose at all, and we could end up with a lot more of recyclables back in our landfills again. I'm not the expert on this. Councillor McClellan does sit on the Blue Water board. He could maybe add some more to it, but what we're looking for is whether we could have the county or all the municipalities join us if, in fact, we do get that delegation, because we think this is an important thing. There's no sense in having the law at all if they're going to change it to have a limit on it of what producers have to pay. So I think this is a good fight to have.
Yeah, through you,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Warden. Yes, absolutely. If you would like a staff report to come back on this particular topic, we would be happy with that. The other thing is if Huron East wants to submit a letter to the county with a request and all of the 9 partner municipalities, then that can be considered by county council. So
Councillor Finch, please.
Yeah, thank you. I did receive correspondence yesterday from a person that's in the healthcare industry, particularly long-term care, about vulnerable sector checks for persons that work in long-term care. I'm just wondering if Dana could comment about the challenges of getting those kinds of checks efficiently and quickly from the police.
Dana, are you prepared for that?
Yep. Through you, Warden. Yeah, so the vulnerable sector checks are still taking a significant amount of time. They are through the OPP, who has hired a third party, so it's taking approximately 8 to 10 weeks. The beginning of school time tends to take a little bit longer because we do have a lot of sports volunteers that have to go through the same vulnerable sector as well as the teachers, those kinds of things. So it does have a bit of a backlog then. So it does significantly impact hiring volunteers because it is mandatory that we have that vulnerable sector in hand before they come into the building. So it takes approximately 2 to 3 months to hire anybody from the time we get their resume until the time they step into the door.
Thank you. I'm just curious, I did receive correspondence. I sent it off to Susan, so they'll be coming in on a future agenda. I'm just wondering through staff, maybe a report ahead of this request. I know the comment that I have in the letter here is to expedite as a priority police record checks for those that work in healthcare or direct care to loved ones in those nursing homes. Would that be of a benefit with your data? Would you think that would help if we said something to the Solicitor General?
My apologies. Through you, Warden. Yes, I do think that would be helpful. I know we are a part of it, like a member of Advantage Ontario, and they've also been doing some advocacy work to try and expedite these processes. So far, we haven't seen a lot of movement on that, but we're hoping to see some soon.
And I believe CAO work is going to speak to this as well.
yeah, so through you, Mr. Warden, just as an awareness piece, the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus has been talking about this. We're seeing this as an issue across the board with all of our long-term care facilities. Unfortunately, the deadline for delegations for Roma was 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. But as an awareness piece, there are discussions that are happening through other groups on this particular topic because it is a significant concern. You end up having staff leave prior to them being able to begin in the workplace. The other thing that I would say is we do have the correspondence on an upcoming agenda. So if you'd like, we can deal with it at that time, Councillor Finch.
I'd be very happy with that. I just wanted to bring to council's attention because we don't want to lose workers just because of a PRC. So I would respect that.
It is a significant concern. Yeah.
And I do see the value in making it a policy to the OPP that is a priority when a police record check request comes in for a healthcare worker. I can see the sports volunteers. It's awesome they're doing that, but we need to make sure we support our healthcare workers at every level. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Finch. Councillor Noel and then Councillor Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just given the length of our agenda today, I do have to step out at 11:45 for another commitment. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the record. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Dietrich.
Yes, and we also had the discussion at the Huron OPP board about the time it takes, and I'm not so sure where it's going to go. I'm not so sure that the OPP can do anything about it, but we'll keep following up through the board. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other councillor comments? Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, thank you. I had the opportunity on the weekend to view a documentary that was produced by, in conjunction with a woman from Huron County, from South Huron, I believe, Bonnie Sitter, and absolutely fantastic. I had an opportunity to talk to her, and they've shown it over 70 times now. It's apparently they're going to go to Europe with it. Anyways, I just want to kind of do a shout out for that. It was also shown to both our high schools on Monday, and I understand like you could hear a pin drop. And some of the interviews are, the farmerettes were in World War II, so they're in their 90s, upper 90s, and being interviewed, and it's just a fantastic documentary here in Huron County. So I just wanted to do that.
Thank you for that. Councillor Basnet, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Ward. Just want to let everyone know there's an abundance cookbook for sale now. United partnered up with United Way, and Mr. Rick Sickinger, who is sitting in the background, was at Four Wind Barns displaying it, modeling it. It is a fantastic book. It is $55. All the money raised goes towards, people in need, homelessness, things like that. And it's the nice thing about this book is it's not just a cookbook. It's, photography, it's stories about businesses, and it's all here in county generated, right? So it's, showing off our county and everything that we provide through our restaurants and our photography and everything else. So if you get a chance, I know there's a bunch of copies for sale throughout Huron County. Please purchase it because, like I said, 100% of the proceeds go to a great cause.
Good. Thank you for that. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands, so we are going to move on to our consent agenda, items 7.1 to 7.6. Is there anything anybody wants to pull from that list and speak to specifically? Councillor Klopp.
Yes, I guess this is for our ambulance. On that first report, it's got about minutes offloading, and I just don't quite understand it. Is it 105 minutes like for the one, and then it goes down 54? Is that actual minutes that you're documenting that are over and above what should be just taking the patient, bringing them in, someone hands them off, and then they get back in the truck? That doesn't count? Or when does this ticker time come in play?
So Jeff,
Stopwatch, start running.
Could you respond to that, please?
Yes, through you to Councillor Klopp. You're correct. There is a grace period or a period of time that we that after the ambulance arrives with the patient, that's considered normal offload. That's not counted in this, and that's, I believe it's 18 minutes. It's at right now is 18 minutes. It's either 18 or 20. I'm not 100% sure what it is. After that, then if we have not offloaded, then the clock starts ticking at that point, and they're considered to be on offload delay. The other way is the other way that is calculated is if we arrive at a hospital and we're immediately told that we are on offload delay, which does happen, then the clock starts right at that point.
And this is the total for all the number of times they were at the hospital, or is this per time?
No, that would be the total for the month at that particular hospital. So as an example, AMGH was 105 minutes in October and 3,590 minutes total for the year up to October.
Right, but then was that 50 times the ambulance was there? Or was it once? You don't know?
It varies. It could be a couple calls. It could be one or two calls, as an example. It just varies on the hospital. So, and I get. So we have staff then having to keep track of this, and I'm just kind of wondering if it's information that we have staff time doing. I'm going at it this way. I hope nobody at these hospitals are deliberately not, let's make them wait, I guess, to be blunt about it. So what is the point in a way of having staff take the time to
was I there 12 minutes longer? I'm writing it down on a piece of paper with all the paperwork that you do need to do. I'm just throwing it out as a comment. I want to be clear. I appreciate that we're always saying, why are the ambulances taking longer and all that? I just wonder if this is time spent, pardon the pun, writing it down.
Jeff, I believe you're.
Yeah, through you. Thanks, Mr. Warden. We're in the process of this being automated through our vendor. So it would be an automated process eventually. It's not completely automated at this point. So it is a staff resource at the time, but there is in process right now. So as the dispatch center has moved along with their technology, we're able to move along with our technology with our vendor. This will be automatically generated and would be a report that we can pull based on the data provided.
Last follow-up.
Thank you. And it is the last follow-up. So we have this information. Then what do we do with that? Do we lobby the hospitals and send them a scathing letter, to be blunt about it, or what do we do with it?
And CAO Work is going to respond to that.
Yeah, so through you, Warden Heffer, just recently the municipality of South Huron reached out because they're looking to do a delegation at Roma about the situation in South Huron, and we were able to access this information through the report that is generated on a monthly basis by Jeff. So, those are the kinds of things that we are able to do as a county when there are concerns identified by either partner municipalities or partner agencies.
Councillor Anderson, please.
Thank you, Warden. So when they're waiting on the offload, that means that ambulance is not available to be in service. Is that correct?
Yes, through the warden. Yes, that's 100% correct. They are tied to that patient at the hospital.
Councillor Finch, please.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Jeff, for all the work you and your team do. The Fit to Sit program, is that working or has that been implemented, or what? Can you give us an update on that?
Yes, through the warden again. Yes, Fit to Sit has been implemented since earlier this year. It is reducing. It is reducing significantly in certain facilities. The problem facilities that we're having in Huron County, it's a larger problem than just the Fit to Sit. It is helping. So by no means, don't get me wrong.
Okay. Anything else on the consent agenda anybody wants to pull? If not, then I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, and that's Councillor Finch. Councillor Harding would second that. Those in favor? That is carried. We are moving on to social and property services, and the first is the intensive supportive housing program service agreement, and Jamie Koskamp is available for questions if you would have any questions around this agreement. Councillor Anderson, please.
It's not necessarily a question, it's a comment. It says it's 100% funded by the ministry, but why is the county then allocating $140,000 towards the program?
Jamie, is that something you can address, please?
So through you, Warden, Councillor Anderson, the money is a flow through from the province. So we're sharing with council what we're doing with our homelessness prevention program allocation. So it's simply a flow through. The county is not contributing to the $140,000.
Okay. Any other questions for Jamie? Seeing no other questions, then I'd be looking for a motion to receive this report and enter into the service agreement. So past Warden McNeil, Councillor Finch would second that. Those in favor? That is carried. Jamie is here again for questions on the Housing Corporation bad debt write-off, and I go to council if there's any questions or comments regarding this report. Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. It's maybe just a quick question. The amount of bad debt just is exponentially rising year over year. The number in 2021, I think, is the first number versus today. It's hard to understand how it has gotten so I don't want to say out of control, but so big so fast. And I wonder if you could provide us just some comments so that we understand what's happening on the ground. Thank you.
Jamie,
So-
please.
Through you, Warden. So Councillor Noel, I will say that COVID had a large impact on that. Landlords were restricted on what they could and could not enforce during COVID. So we did see a large rise in our arrears during COVID. I will say that our tenancies are becoming far and far more complex. Our community partners that support our tenants are, spread pretty thin already, trying to accommodate their ever increasing caseloads. Sometimes the typical scope of support doesn't meet the requirement for our tenants. We're finding that some of our tenants are quite unwell. When they're leaving with quite damaged units or leaving lots of possessions left in the units, which then it's up to our staff to remove those possessions from the units. In some cases, if there is an eviction, there might be space constraints on where the individual is going next, so they aren't able to take everything with them. Again, that comes back to the debris removal. And I will say the ongoing delays or the delays at the Landlord and Tenant Board, that's just compounding arrears year over year, month over month, and it's just getting greater and greater, we find.
Okay. Other questions? Past Warden McClellan, please.
Just a quick one, Mr. Warden. Some of these move out maintenance costs, if someone moves out and we spend $1,000, we got to put a coat of paint on or something, that seems appropriate. But when you get ones that are getting up into $9,000 and $10,000, what kind of problems are we running into? And is there something else that we can do?
So through you, Warden. So when you see those large numbers, that's typically when a unit has been left full. So we're looking at not only the unit turnover costs, but then we're also looking at the debris removal. I will say we had a tenant death this past year that had some biohazard cleaning that also had to be done. So you'll see that as one of our large expenses as well. Our client services lead tries to intervene as early as possible. So if we're seeing arrears on an account, she's out working with our tenants to enter into flexible repayment agreements. We also have our housing stability worker. Again, if there's issues identified, not just with arrears, but just the overall tenancy, she's there to help with a range of topics. So it could be basic budgeting, it could be housekeeping tips, which would include decluttering. And if we can't solve that in-house, then we make referrals to exterior, our partner agencies to provide additional assistance where necessary.
Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I do recall last year at this time, we had the same report, and we wrote a letter to the province saying that the delays at the tribunal were causing problems. And I understand that some work has been done, but what you're saying is that it doesn't seem like there's enough work that's been done to get rid of some of those delays. So I'm wondering if there is an opportunity for us to, again, advocate to the province that more needs to be done to move those files through the tribunal. I don't know, is that a motion that would be required in that regard? Because I'd be prepared to make that motion if that's something that would be helpful.
Yes, if you would make that motion for a letter to go forward, that would be appropriate.
Thank you.
And if that motion is put forward, then I'd be looking for a seconder for that. Councillor Heffer would second that. Those in favor? That is carried. Any further questions for Jamie on this? Councillor McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. In your report, through you to Jamie, in your report, you mentioned too, you do send some of your arrears or all of your arrears into a collection agency. Do you ever have success with that?
Through you, Warden, we have very limited success with that. I can add, though, that we do add all of the outstanding arrears amounts to a provincial-wide arrears database, which does prevent tenants from being eligible for social housing in the balance of the province. So if they have an arrears amount with Huron County, they can't go up north and be housed up north until those arrears are either repaid or they enter into a mutually agreeable repayment plan with the service manager that holds the arrears amount.
Okay. I'm not seeing any more hands, so Is there someone willing to receive the report and approve the recommendations? So that's Past Warden McClellan and Councillor Klopp seconds that. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, Jamie. Moving on to the National Child Day in Canada, and this is being presented by Cheryl Patience. Cheryl is joining us virtually, and she's here for questions if you would have any. And if there is no questions, then we'd be looking for someone to receive this report from Cheryl. So that is Councillor Becker, seconded by Councillor Bazinet. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you for joining us, Cheryl. We are moving on to Homes for the Aged and the annual fee increases for the apartments. And Dana, you're here to present this for us.
Thank you, Warden. So this report has come in front of council as a result of a request from the service review that we had participated in with council in the fall. So it was council's desire to explore the option of the rental affordable housing for seniors, their rental rates, in ensuring that it is able to support the upgrades that it is requiring, as well as supporting the infrastructure and making sure that the costs aren't being offset by the long-term care homes. The rental rates were reviewed in 2024, and at that time, there was an increase made to these units, staying within the market value. So they were increased for a one-bedroom apartment. They were increased to $1,300, and then for a two-bedroom unit, it was $1,600. Each year, those occupied units do have an annual increase based on the landlord-tenant board. In 2026, that increase is 2.1%. What we don't do is we don't increase the base rate. So a new tenant coming in would come in at that $1,300. So that base rate remains the same, whereas occupied units would have that annual increase yearly. So we are looking to increase the base rate each year based on that annual approval from the Landlord-Tenant Act. Additionally, we have an age-in-place program that is a mandatory program that the tenants participate in. This program is allows the tenant 15 meals a month, as well as weekly housekeeping. This allows us a natural wellness check, as well as the ability to go in and identify any minor repairs that may need done in those units before they become major issues. We are looking at an increase as well, the same increase that is applied to the rental rates to this age-in-place program to support the increase in cost for staffing increases, as well as inflationary costs with the dietary, like the meals that are provided. This will, stop the giant increases when we do review it in a 4-year increment, or down the road when we find that we aren't at market value. So we are recommending that we do the increases both to the age-in-place as well as the base rate. So that's kind of the overview of the report, just trying to keep in mind everybody's time. So,
thank you, Dana. Past Warden McClellan, please.
I've actually compared those rates to some that the retail market is offering right now, and they're very competitive. So I'd make a motion that we go with the recommendation.
So motion and seconded by Councillor Finch. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Dana. Under emergency services, Jeff has 3 reports to share with us. So Jeff, go ahead with your first one.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Warden. The first report is in respect to the trial program collaboration with Huron, Perth and area OHT. They have approached us to work with them to help palliative patients remain at home through a patient remote monitoring service. And what they are looking for from our community paramedics are support in that program with respect to technology help in setup of the equipment, and then if needed, and could also be some home visits. The reason that they're asking for some support in the home visit is not because we would be doing the home visits on a regular basis, but the palliative team nursing come out of London, and so there could be issues with weather, there could be issues with timing to get a palliative care nurse to the client in time for what the client needs, and so they'd be looking at us as a backup to that. We don't expect that this will entail very much work for us, and it will be incorporated as part of the normal staffing pattern that we already have in place. So during our normal staffing hours, we would be, at this point, just so that council is aware, we would be the last partner to sign on. The other partners have all signed on already, and this is a trial program until March at this point from the OHT.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there any questions? Councillor Klopp, please. So report moved to receive and prepare a bylaw. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Noel. Those in favor? That is carried. The ambulance response times, Jeff?
Through you, thank you, Mr. Warden. Again, this was part of our pre-budget talks in our service review. It was asked that I bring back the comparison response time that we did a few years ago and try and update it and let everybody know what it looks like. Unfortunately, since the province started to roll out the MPDS dispatching system, so the new dispatching system that is eventually rolling across the province, they failed to update their website with all the other response times because in reality, everybody's response time plan is changing as the new program rolls out. So I was not able to update the stats from the previous report that is in front of you that you've seen before about a year and a half ago. So my recommendation, and in addition to that, is you had already passed the 2026 response time plan at our August council meeting. So my recommendation would be that if you want to see some changes to our response time based on our comparators, that we hold off and that we do that when our MPDS rolls out of London, which is targeted for October of next year.
Okay, thank you for that, Jeff. Is there any questions for Jeff on this report? And if not, I'd be looking for someone to receive the report. So Councillor Finch would do that. Councillor Basnet would second that. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And Jeff, the paramedic mental health report.
Again, through you, Mr. Warden. Thank you. And I know this has been a priority for both staff here at the county as well as council. Paramedic mental health and wellness has been a priority. Aaron Thompson is here as well to help support this report, but we have been working together to see what we can implement to make it better for our staff with respect to PTSD, ongoing occupational stress injuries, and hopefully get them the proper supports that they need. But in addition, obviously, the follow through would be that our WSIP costs are decreased because we're trying to keep our workers healthy. Some key points to this report is, as we've pointed out, is that our WSIB costs since January of 2020 till October of this year have exceeded $3.3 million for paramedic services with respect to mental health injuries. So that's a significant amount of dollars that we are, that's rising. We've talked about the number of staff that we've had off in our department before and getting that, better support and more resiliency and reduce the stigma around this so that we can get our workers some better help. What we're proposing in this report is the start of our strategic, if you will, our strategic plan and moving this forward with relation to hopefully in the end reducing our WSIB costs and keeping our workers at work. It entails substantial amount of training over the next year at all levels, from new hires with resiliency training, new paramedics coming into the field, all the way up to our leaders, our superintendents and our deputy chiefs and myself on how to help manage and work with mental health claims as well as our workers before they go off. So that is going to, you'll see that in our budget. That's going to be about a $31,000 training budget just for mental health for next year. The good news is officially yesterday, we were informed that we did receive the Solicitor General's grant. $25,000 of that would be coming back to the county. So it's going to be a fairly small amount of money that the county is going to have to put out for the training that we have listed if the budget passes as we have it. I think the other thing that, the other important thing is we have a substantial increase in our budget coming forward with respect to positions that we've added as backfill positions because of the number of paramedics that we're experiencing that are off, the number that we expect that may not be back through next year that are currently off on claims. So you're going to see a substantial increase in the WSIB backfill costs that we've put into next year's wage budget. It's just based on the history and what we're predicting at this point. So Mike couldn't answer any financial questions with the budget. He's been going through it, but we're happy to answer questions, and Aaron's here for anything on the mental health training as well.
So thank you for the information, Jeff. Councillor Finch?
Yeah, and then I just want to thank Jeff and your staff for what you do. Unless you've actually worked in emergency services, you really can't appreciate the amount of stress they see every day. It's always the unknown. So on behalf of South Huron and our council, thank you very much for everything you do. We appreciate it. We see the ambulances go through. We just wonder, where are they going to, right? How's that going to impact them and their future? So again, thank you very much on behalf of South Huron Council.
Okay, any other questions for Jeff, comments? If not, who would be willing to receive this report? So Councillor Finch would do that, seconded by Past Warden Ginn. Those in favor? That is carried. On to Public Works, the transfer of road allowance to the Township of Howick. Imran is available for questions, if there's any questions or comments on this report. Councillor Harding, please.
Well, if no one else wants to speak to this, I will. This is very important, this little sliver of land to go with another sliver from the MTO and some land we bought from a resident of Gorey to go ahead with the project in the future. No time frame set yet for a new fire station and an EMS. If they want to join in with us in that, we would be able to house them too. So it's very important for the north part of Huron County, and our fire chief is here today if he wants to make any comments. And we have a really, really good group in Howick now spearheading some of these developments that we're proposing. So thank you.
All right. Josh, was there any comments putting you on the spot there? No. No, just from there.
Yeah, no, this is our current station built in 1963 as a public works building and renovated in the 80s to be a fire station. At the time that there wasn't a lot of requirements when you were making a building to a fire station. Since then, obviously that has significantly changed. So it's going to be quite an undertaking for a small township like Howick, and any assistance in that process is going to be really beneficial. So we really appreciate the consideration of the council to give me this piece of property.
All right. Thank you for that. Councillor Finch?
I'll move the recommendation.
So moving the recommended motion, and I believe Imran is getting the prize for the longest motion in the agenda today. So that is to receive the report, to declare the property surplus, to transfer it for a nominal fee of $1, and I believe payments required today, Imran? and waive the requirement for appraisal and give notice of our intentions. So that is moved and seconded by Councillor Besnet. Those in favor of this? That is carried. Thank you very much. And good luck with that project moving forward. It is an ideal location for what you're proposing. Imran is going to speak to our strategic priorities update. Imran, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warren, through you. So this report is just an update about the strategic priority session that we had where council identified requested public works to look into just an improvement into communicating road closures with the public. So over the last year, we worked with, internally and both with OPP. So we've got a system set up where we have improved how we manage the closures internally in terms of emailing and communicating internally. And as for the public, OPP has taken the initiative to post those closures on the Municipal 511 website, where we already maintain our road closures for construction projects. So as of right now, the website is active. I guess the caveat that just to keep in mind is the road closures will be put in by the OPP, and the information is displayed onto the county website as it shows up on the Municipal 511 page. So we're not controlling the closures as they show up on the website. We're just displaying it for the purposes of communicating with the public. I have Panico history here who worked on the system internally, and OPP worked as well. So it's been a team effort. And if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Imran. Is there any questions? Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I don't have a question. I just have a comment, and it's basically thank you for all the work that you've done on this, because I know that there are a lot of folks living in the county who do find that there's some confusion in the winter months when they leave their house and they go to drive into town and they realize they've been driving on a closed road that they didn't know was closed. So hopefully that will alleviate or it will go a long way towards alleviating some of that confusion. And I appreciate everything you've done to get us there. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions, comments for Imran? Would someone be so kind as to receive this report? So past Warden McNeil, Councillor Anderson seconds that. Those in favor? That is carried. And the Public Works Service Level Review, Imran is going to speak to this as well.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warren, through you. So this is also an update on one of the strategic priorities where Public Works was to look at full service review. We spent most of the last year kind of detailing out the things that we do, and we basically laid out the terms of reference in this report for what we'll be doing. And our hope is that we can have the actual service review in front of council by November next year. There is a lot of work involved in it, and pretty much our entire team will be working on it. So if there's any concerns with the terms of reference or anything else council would like to see included in there, we'd be happy to take a look at that.
Okay, anything from council on this report? Again, is someone willing to receive this report? So that's Councillor Vanstone, Councillor Harding. Those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to economic development on our agenda. And this is a municipal accommodation tax report. And Rick is here to speak to this. So welcome, Rick, and go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, and good morning, members of council. This report on municipal accommodation tax is also in response to questions raised at the service level review last month. So the report on municipal accommodation tax, or MAT, is meant as a sort of primer for council on what it involves, and I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have about municipal accommodation tax.
Okay, go to council. Is there any questions on this? We had asked for this information to come forward. It's here. See no questions. Is there someone willing to approve this report? Councillor Becker, Councillor Basnet seconds that. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, Rick. And Vicky is going to speak to us on the service level review follow-up for ECDEV.
Thank you. Through you, Warden to Council. Again, this is in response to the questions that we had at the service level review, where we were asked what would it look like if we didn't apply any levy dollars to both the IRCC contract for the local immigration partnership and the MEDCAT contract, Ministry Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade contract for the Small Business Enterprise Centre or the Huron Business Centre. The options are laid out in front of you. I am more than happy to answer any questions at this time. I also want to just give you a brief update. At the time of the discussions at service level review, we still had not opened negotiations with MedCat on a contract for 2026. The current contract ends at the end of March 2026. Those contract negotiations have still not been opened, so I will continue to keep you posted.
Thank you, Vicki. Any questions for Vicki regarding this report? Seeing none, then you know the process. All right, past warden Ginn would receive this report. Councillor McClellan would second that. Those in favor, that is carried. And Vicki, again on the immigration issue, please take that.
Thank you, Warden. Through you to council. We had a request for a letter of support to one of our local processors, and that resulted in a request for a staff report. The staff report is before you. Part of that staff report was consultation with legal, and so I'm open to any questions at this time.
Councillor Finch, please.
I think it's a good news story, and I thank Vicki for her work on this, especially so quickly. So I think we need to support this wholly. We have a lot of people working here that are from offshore, and we need to be proactive. So I thank you very much for your work, and I will move to support it.
So motion made to receive the report and send the letter of support forward. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Heffer. Any further discussion? Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Vicki, for that. We're going to talk about our updating a remuneration bylaw, procedural bylaw, travel guidelines policy, and our clerk, Susan Crone, is here to speak to this report.
Thank you, Warden, through you. So after Jane Mazinski's report, we did a review of our remuneration procedural bylaws and our travel guide policy. Over the past couple of years, we've noticed a couple inconsistencies there. So this is really just housekeeping, trying to make things consistent with some of the policies throughout. So I put in some highlights. If you have any questions regarding those, I'm happy to answer those. The other piece that I am we are requesting, is council receives an $80 home allowance. And in order to try and streamline that process a little bit, we are interested in maybe changing how that is delivered. So we put in front of you options A, B, and C. A being move the $80 per month into a council annual honorarium. B, to continue the $80 a month just as we're doing it now with a separate payment. Or C, to discontinue the $80 per month home allowance. I'm happy to answer any questions on this.
Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. As far as the $80 go, if you just put it in the regular honorarium so that you're not doing separate payments, I certainly would have no problem with that. Councillor Ginn brought up a very good point when we were discussing council's wages earlier. Certainly have no problem with our per diem or what we get paid per meeting, but the costs of going to conferences with the registration and hotel bills, we're not keeping up so that we can attend the number of conferences that we have in the past. And I think there should be an adjustment to just that allowance for conferences, if we could debate that one.
Okay. You want to debate that now?
Sure.
All right.
In fairness, if we were to look over the last 5 years of how much conferences have gone up and hotel costs have gone up and could compensate the funding that each councillor has to attend conferences by that same percentage, all I'm asking is that we just stay in step with what the increases are. Not asking for council to be paid any more money. We just want to be able to attend the conferences that we feel are worthwhile attending.
Okay. So with that, I think the appropriate step then to ask staff to come back with some information in a report for that. Michael, you want to respond to that, please?
Through yourself, Warden. So currently, right now, just looking at our budget for 25, the rate was $4,304 for the conference. That does not include the per diems. That only includes the actual expenses for registration, hotel, mileage, etc. We do inflate that every year just based on the increase for council per diem. So whatever the non-union rate increase would be, that rate would change. But if we're looking at bumping that up a little bit, I think we could just chat about that in budget during the budget if we wanted. It's a budget item. Or we could bring a separate report or have that discussion at budget time. But that's the current process. We just inflate that amount each year based on the non-union increase.
Past Warden McClellan, please.
I don't have a problem that we discuss it during budget. The problem is that as individuals, we don't know what the increases have been for the actual fees over the course of the last 5 years, whether it be for accommodations or for registrations. So somebody should put that information together so we have that in front of us to discuss it. As far as the rest of it goes, I'm fine with the fact that we leave it to budget time if that's the desire.
So I think to give staff the clarity they need to try and get this going for us, that we would be looking for.
I'll make that motion.
So, and is there a seconder for that? Past Warden Ginn would second that. Just let the clerk scribe this out because it's outside of the other motions here. Just let me know when you're ready. We already dealt with it. All right. Any other questions regarding Susan's report? So then we'd be looking for a motion, and we have to declare which option we would like in that motion. A, B, or C. A is move to the honorarium. B is to continue as is, and C is to discontinue. Past Warden McClellan, please.
I would say A is the simplest.
Okay, so A is to move the $80 into the honorarium. Councillor Harding? Okay. So Past Warden McClellan moves that. Harding seconds that. Further discussion? Those in favor? And that is carried. And Susan is here to speak to the consideration of our past warden and deputy warden potential positions.
Through you, Warden. So as we were reviewing some of these policies, it kind of came to our attention that one of our jobs is the contingencies and the what ifs and, you know, and have a plan for that. As we were reviewing it, the thought came into our head that, you know, what if we don't have a past warden come back on our council, and what is the course of action there? And there has been some discussion over many years about a position of deputy warden. So that kind of came to the light. There is a role for our past warden. So what we are proposing is just an investigation of potentially that position, or of deputy warden, or if council is not interested in the deputy warden position or getting information on the deputy warden position, a contingency plan in case we don't have a past warden, a sitting past warden on our council with the election coming up next year, rather to get ahead of this and instead of being reactionary. So we're here. We just thought we'd throw that out for you.
So Dietrich, Ginn, and Finch in that order, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I think I'd like to see this come forward from staff so that we can have the options of having a deputy warden. The reason I say that is because it gives them the opportunity to maybe look ahead for the next 2-year term. And I appreciate what the past wardens are doing, but I think we need to start looking forward a little more. Thank you.
Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I have experience dealing with deputy wardens, you know, as chair of the Western Ontario Wardens and in the Economic Development Committee of the Western Wardens. My experience is it doesn't go well. They don't know the people around the table. They don't know the issues of the past. I would strongly recommend that we stay with a past warden position as opposed to creating a deputy warden. If we get into a situation where there are no past wardens, I think it's up to the council of the day, and I would propose a acting past warden rather than going to a position of deputy warden. That's my opinion.
All right. Councillor Finch, please.
And I would disagree with Councillor, again, respectfully, but I do agree with Councillor Dietrich. We all have deputy mayors in our councils right now. And of course, Councillor Dietrich is my deputy mayor and he steps in for me when I'm unable. So I think there's a value in practice what Councillor Dietrich mentioned about growth. It does offer that opportunity. There's nothing saying that a past warden couldn't be the deputy warden. I see the value in that too, but I think we as council and the public would like to know the distinction between warden, deputy warden, and council in the actual structure of Huron County Council. So I see the value in having the deputy warden position.
Councillor Klopp, and then past warden McClellan.
I think was it not be we're asking for a report. We're getting into debate, and heaven knows I get down those debates, so I'm not pointing fingers, but I do, especially some of mine. But I think I'd be interested in a report. We just got done getting rid of an $80 honorarium for house that's been there forever. I leaned over to this esteemed colleague and said, why didn't we do this years ago? I think there's a tradition, and I get that, but we've changed the tradition a little bit now to 2-year terms also, and we did that. So I think I'm Mr. Dietrich, did he not make a motion that we ask for a report, and we'll have the debate and give us time to think about it on these options.
Okay, so just for a point of clarification, on our last motion, we did not eliminate the $80. We moved it into an honorarium. Okay.
I stand to be corrected, but we made it a lot more efficient, and why didn't we do that years ago? I think it's time to have a debate on this, and I look forward to it.
So Councillor Dietrich, was that a motion to receive this report and ask for a report to come back again?
Yes, it was.
All right. And Councillor Finch would second that. Any further? Those in favor? And that is carried. And Susan is here to share with us our calendar for the upcoming year.
Just a quick note on this. If you looked at the calendar, September, October, November, December, the dates are completely mixed up. That's because we are having an election in October, and this council itself is only in term until November 14th. We try to have you ratified most of the meetings in there, so we've shifted everything, and then we also have orientation days as well. So just be aware of those, just because they're not the same as usual.
Okay. Any questions on our calendar coming up? Then we'd be looking for motion to receive this report. That's Councillor Anderson and Councillor Finch seconding that. Those in favor? That is carried. And Michael, you're on deck for approval of early procurement. He's available for questions if there is any. No questions, then of course we'd be looking for a motion to receive this report. That is Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Heffer. Those in favor? That is carried. And again, Michael's available for capital and operating projects deferral. Any questions for Michael on this one? Appreciate that. Motion made. Councillor Dietrich seconds that motion. Those in favor? That is carried. And again, Michael's available for year-to-date financial reporting. Any questions there? And Councillor Finch would move that. Seconded by Councillor Becker. Those in favor? That is carried. Fees and service charges bylaw update. And Susan is going to speak to this report.
Through you, Warden. So we do this annually. We present our fees bylaw. We review it. All members of staff and their departments review it. They do their updates and we present it to you. Just a note that was in the report, we are looking at potentially changing the process of this report and looking at potentially an annual increase straight across based on a cost of living in a certain month. And we're also looking at potentially moving it up because our lower tiers do actually use this fee bylaw for some of theirs, and we don't give them enough time to complete it by the end of the year. So that report will be coming in the new year, but the one that's in front of us right now are the proposed amendments as of January 1.
Questions? Receive and bring back a bylaw. Who would like to see that? Councillor Heffer. Past Warden McNeil. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Correspondence, several items there. Is there anything specific anybody wants to address? Councillor Goderich, please.
Thank you. Just wondered if I could if we could get support on 1410. We don't know where we're going with this as the conservation authorities are amalgamating. So I think under the clean water, we kind of would like to have some kind of a moving forward so we know where we're at maybe. So if we could get, I don't know what we need to do, but something, please.
I think what you would need to do is make that a motion and get a seconder, and then we can move it forward. So that is Councillor Goderich, seconded by Councillor Harding. That 14.10 letter on behalf of Huron Clean Water go forward. Those in favor? That is carried. Anything else on our list? Councillor Anderson?
14.2, the public safety.
Okay. Councillor Anderson is putting that forward. Do I have a seconder for supporting that? Councillor Becker? Those in favor? That is carried. Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yes, 14.18, swift appointment. My term is up in June of next year. If it's a new member, if there's a bit of a procedure to go through starting in January. So I think we need to make a decision on this. If not now, then very soon. It's the only other thing that comes into play. If a member of the SWIFT board is not reelected, then their position comes up again at the next annual meeting. So Huron County will have a 2-year term. If our representative is not reelected, then we would have a new member for a 1-year term, and then it would have a 2-year term after that. So that's the way it works.
Okay.
And I'll just further add, I would let my name stand again if that's the decision of council.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Councillor Anderson?
I'll make a motion to appoint Councillor Ginn to the SWIFT board again.
So motion made for Councillor Ginn to continue with that, and Councillor Harding is seconding that. Those in favor of that motion? That is carried. So we are at a place where we need to accept correspondence that is not specifically dealt with. Past Warden McClellan, Councillor Klopp seconds that. Those in favor? That is carried. Not to jinx how we're moving along with the speed of this agenda, but I am going to ask that we just take a short comfort break at this time. All right, for those of us that are ready to go, we are at number 15 in our agenda. It's new and unfinished business. And Denise Van Amersfoort is here to speak to the Fighting Delays and Building Faster Act. Denise, welcome.
Thank you very much, Warden. Good morning, everyone. As outlined, I am here this morning to speak about a new piece of legislation that's been proposed by the province known as Bill 60. I did note that this report did appear on local council agendas earlier this week, so I will be brief in my comments. Essentially, this is another omnibus bill that affects not only the Planning Act, but a series of acts. This report very much focuses on the changes to the Planning Act, as well as related Environmental Registry of Ontario postings, which we call ERO postings, for anyone who is curious about that. Some of the notable changes for the county, one of the things proposed in Bill 60 is that we will now be able to have a county level community improvement plan. So community improvement plan is a tool that many of the local municipalities already use. The legislation never allowed an upper tier government to have a CIP, so this is a new option. Some of the other counties I know had advocated for this change, perhaps wanting to use this Planning Act tool to help leverage a housing incentive or something to do with employment. So this is just a new tool should the county wish to use it. Otherwise, there's a number of technical changes that we'll be continuing to monitor and implement as they come through. Bill 60 did receive second reading on Monday of this week, and we do anticipate it will be likely brought forward this fall for final reading. The other thing that's notable about this bill is that they are contemplating additional changes, and they've asked us for feedback on a series of questions. The ones I focused on in my report explain the official plan system in Huron County, as well as our comments and thoughts on minimum lot size requirements. So again, where we know that the province is contemplating more changes to the planning system, this is an opportunity for us to provide feedback on our system, how it works, and how it is both effective and efficient in implementing the provincial direction, as well as streamlining development proposals and development applications here in Huron. So as you read through the report, that's really the message that we were crafting from a staff perspective, was outlining how does this system work well. So our recommendation is that firstly, that the report be received for information, but secondly, that we do provide this report as written comments to the environmental registry postings relating to three topics. Firstly, being the Bill 60 changes. Second, being the consultation on streamlining and simplifying official plans. And finally, the third one being consultation on minimum lot sizes. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Denise. Took a lot of information into a tight space there. Thank you for that. Council, any questions for Denise? Past Warden Ginn.
Variations to minor variances. That's one I have suggested before, and I hope that if we're commenting on it, that's supported. I think it takes a lot of staff time for something that's, very minor and often passed without questions. So I hope county staff will support that part of it.
Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, through the warden, I would agree. This aligns very much with the as of right housing work that we have already done. One thing I would note is that because Huron's been so proactive, because the local municipalities have made so many changes to the zoning bylaw, one example would be we've already reduced an interior side lot line down to 1.5 meters. There's a limiting distance that comes in from the Ontario Building Code. So we've essentially already gone to the minimum. They won't be able to go any less. We also want to keep in mind things like parking depths. If we reduce a parking depth any more than we already have, you won't be able to fit a standard pickup truck in that space. Lot coverage. They want to increase lot coverage by 10%. We've already pushed the limits in some neighborhoods. We've already gone to 40, 50%. In some cases, we could almost be I don't want to say penalized for being proactive, but there could be some unintended consequences. If you think of lot coverage going from 55% to 65%, could end up really quickly with a stormwater management issue in an established neighborhood that doesn't have stormwater management ponds. So I do think staff are supportive, but with those cautions that there are some common sense, practical considerations that need to be built into this.
Go ahead, Past Warden again.
I guess with that, I should recognize the foresight of our planning department.
And with that, is there someone willing to receive this report by Denise? Past Warden McNeil, Councillor Anderson seconds that. Those in favor? Thank you, Denise. That is carried. And Derry. Welcome, Derry. You have a Huron's climate action strategy to present for us as well.
Thank you, Warden. There we go. I will just share my screen. Okay, good morning, everyone. I am happy to be here today to talk about the county's new climate action strategy called Rooted in Resilience. As my report would have mentioned, It's coming today for information and comments, and a final plan will be brought back in December. Uh-oh. Hold on a second. Escape. I think I shared the wrong file. Okay. There we go. Perfect. So this is just an outline of the different sections within the climate action strategy, and I'll be touching on them today throughout the presentation. So around the world, the effects of climate change are already being observed. In Canada specifically, our average annual temperatures since 1850 are shown in the climate strip at the bottom of the page. So you can see how there has been warming in the past, but how accelerated that has been since greenhouse gas emissions have become more prominent in our atmosphere. Municipalities are uniquely positioned to make a really large impact in climate mitigation and adaptation. It has been shown that for every dollar invested in climate adaptation, it can generate up to $13 to $15 in avoided damages in the future and economic benefits as well. All levels of government do share the responsibility for climate action, both internationally, nationally, provincially, and locally. There's been steps taken to recognize the need to address climate change, as well as prioritize climate adaptation and mitigation. Huron County is already experiencing the impacts from a changing climate. The county released a public climate change survey in the winter of 2025 to understand how the community is experiencing it and what their concerns are related to climate change. As you can see on the screen, 73% of respondents had experienced extreme weather in the past 5 years, along with the percentages such as 56% for air quality and 51% for extreme heat. So these are being experienced by members in the community, unfortunately. Climate change is already affecting many parts of our daily lives as well. These are all local examples of impacts that we have seen, specifically over the past couple of years. So flooded basements and roof collapses create significant financial strains for residents and businesses alike. Flooding of farmland and natural areas can disrupt food production, delay planting, and lead to trail closures that limit recreational access. Severe storms and high winds can also damage natural features, lead to power outages, and cause road closures, demonstrating the growing challenges for emergency management and public safety in Huron. So by 2050, Huron County is projected to see the following differences in climate compared to historic trends. So some of these may not look too dramatic, but a 4% increase in temperature does mean a large change. So currently we have around, historically it was 7.5 degrees Celsius was our average annual temperature. So in 2050, that could go up to 11.5. So as you can imagine, that could significantly decrease even the number of frost days we had. So historically, we've had about 140 days where the temperature goes minimum below zero. By 2050, that's projected to be under 100 days of the year. So that can be significant changes. We're expected to see about a month more of very warm days. Along with that comes about potentially 5 heat waves a summer. Historically, again, we've only really experienced 1 or 2 even at this point. So that is a large increase, and there's a lot of health concerns that come along with that. Along with over 1,000 millimeters of total precipitation in a year. That's about an 8% increase from what we've seen historically, and that could lead to a lot more localized flooding. As well, with our being so close to Lake Huron, the lake levels are going to become more and more variable over time, which could impact erosion and the shoreline, as well as the surface temperature is increasing. We're also expected to see more frequent extreme weather events, whether that be extreme rain, snow, ice, and even higher wind speeds, which I think we've already started to experience. Part of the climate strategy was to do climate risk assessments for both the community and the corporation. This was done by a working group for the community aspect and by staff for the corporate risks. They are on the screen, and I apologize, they are quite small, but there were 2 shared top risks amongst the corporation and community, both related to more extreme weather events, whether it be in all seasons, and again, that public safety perspective, and even the road conditions, which I know have already been even talked about today with some of the proactive measures that Public Works is putting in. Another part of a climate strategy, and this goes across municipalities, is to conduct greenhouse gas emissions inventories. In 2019, for our first corporate climate change adaptation plan, we did a corporate greenhouse gas emissions inventory. So we do have some historical data there. So since 2017, which was our baseline year at the time, the corporate emissions have rose by 9%. This can partially be attributed to the fact that now in 2024, we were able to gather waste data, which we did not have in 2017, as well as we've added more social housing properties since then, and our fleet usage has also increased. I will also preface that the 2024 data was not worse than the 2023. So 2017 could have also been just a really low emissions year, whether given the weather or even the usage in some of our buildings. For the community emissions, this was the first time that staff had conducted this type of assessment in Huron County, and we tried to gather as much of the available data that we could from our local utility companies and from publicly available data. So I will preface that this is an estimate, and as we get more and more information over the years, we can update this and provide a more fulsome picture. But it does show that agriculture and our on-road transportation sectors account for about 68% of our total emissions, with the building sector, which is both residential, industrial, and commercial, accounting for 31%, and solid waste only accounting for about 1% of our community emissions. This to me isn't too shocking, as we are an agriculturally based economy, as well as we do rely heavily on our private transportation to get to and from. I will also say that on average, when given our population, each resident emits about 2.5 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents per year, and that is around 4 tons lower than the average in Canada. So we are doing okay in that regard. So to develop the plan, we did do more public engagement this time, as well as corporately. As you may have recalled, in 2019, 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, so we weren't able to do that public engagement piece at that time, but we were able to in 2025. So corporately, all staff were asked to participate in a survey around their feelings on climate change and how they can implement more actions into their roles or considerations for climate change, as well as a full day workshop with the corporate senior leadership team was conducted, which was really well attended in June, where they could provide their perspectives and options for actions moving forward. For the community, a survey was released, as I mentioned previously, in this earlier this year, and we were able to gather residents' experiences with climate change, some of their concerns, and some of the future areas they'd like us to prioritize in this plan. Additionally, we did do community conversations with community partners to gather their feedback on current challenges and future opportunities to work together. These are some of the priority areas that came out from the survey, as well as these conversations, and they were reiterated in a lot of the conversations at the corporate workshop. So natural environment, agriculture, infrastructure, and public health and safety are overlapping priority areas that came up in both the surveys. And as you will see later on, those are integral to a lot of the priority areas we did implement in the plan. Other priority areas that arose was the need for consistent public education messaging and materials on climate change and climate action, collaborating on initiatives with our partners, knowing that a lot of organizations are already leading the way in this type of work and the county can support them through that, and the importance of monitoring and sharing success stories. That can be both beneficial for other organizations to see where things are going well, as well as the community to understand the progress that we're making. I did just want to take a slide to mention all the community partners that were involved in the community conversations. We do have a lot of amazing local partners and organizations, and honestly experts in sustainability and climate action. The county is really lucky to have access to these resources and have the opportunity to learn from them and with them, and to continue to build those relationships and partnerships moving forward on climate action. And I hope you would have noticed that through a lot of the actions in the plan, there's often a lead partner as well as a support, and those include a lot of our community partners. This diagram is also from a grade 2 class in Clinton, that this is how they designed their sustainable community, which is really cute to see all the local landmarks that they cared about, as well as see the amount of green space and social services that they want to have in their community. So with that being said, our vision for this plan outlines what we are and what we want to be. So we are a community committed to innovative, sustainable climate action that protects what matters today while building resilience for tomorrow. And our mission is how we will get there. In Huron County, we work together to tackle climate challenges with practical, forward-thinking local solutions that reflect our community values. On the screen, you'll see the priority areas, and these were brainstormed based on the results, as I mentioned, from both the community and corporate surveys, as well as the community conversations and the corporate workshop. I won't spend too much time diving into each one, but there's healthy air, water, and land, resilient buildings and infrastructure, supporting health and safety and well-being, empowering through education and outreach, a healthy and sustainable economy, and corporate sustainable leadership. At this time, I'll dive into just highlight a few of the actions in each category, so you know what's included in these priority areas and how we will get there. So for healthy air, water, and land, council will be pretty familiar, I think, at this point with the Huron View Demonstration Farm and the Huron Clean Water Project. The inclusion of these actions in this plan specifically really highlight their connection with climate action, both adaptation and mitigation, and recognizes their importance to the environmental outlooks of the corporation. As well, an upcoming action that Dana Meller and I have been working on is piloting an industrial composter at the Homes for the Aged. So this would really help reduce the food waste that would traditionally go to landfill, and it could lead to economic savings, decreasing the amount of garbage that we need to be collected at the homes. Next, priority area 2 is resilient buildings and infrastructure. I'll touch on maybe action 5.6, as this is something that staff and county council have already actually started putting in place when you provided your support for providing our letter to the Clean Air Partnership to conduct the Home Energy Retrofit Program feasibility study and apply to that funding through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. So this again highlights that a lot of these actions, some of them will be brand new and some of them are continuation or ones that staff have already started to put in motion for the corporation over the past year. Priority area 3 is supporting health, safety, and well-being. Maitland Valley Conservation Authority is actually leading the Coastal Adaptation Strategy Project, which I'm sure a lot of you have already heard about. And this focuses on protecting communities and infrastructure from the impacts of a changing climate. So it's very climate focused. Several of our local municipalities along the shoreline, as well as the county, is involved in supporting the 4 initiatives that have outlined for this project, some of which being the Littoral Cell Technical Committee and the Transformative Development Policies. Priority area 4 is empowering through education and outreach. The county has worked really hard in the past to intentionally develop our strong relationships with our local environmental organizations and groups. Action 9.6 specifically recognizes this effort and allows staff to continue to build these relationships. Some examples would be the Huron Stewardship Council and the Huron Perth Woodlot Association. Priority area 5 is a healthy and sustainable economy. The county really hopes to provide business cases to local businesses and community members to start thinking about how climate action can actually save them money in their practices. An example of where this action has already been in place and is existing is the Home Energy Savings Guide that staff released in 2024. This guide outlines little ways that residents can save money in their home through their utility bills by making energy efficient upgrades or have options for energy efficient upgrades and behavior changes that they can make. Additionally, an upcoming action, which you may have heard a bit about from Rick Sickinger in the past, is the development of a sustainable tourism strategy for the county. Lastly, priority area 6, corporate sustainability and leadership. This allows us to really build on some of those actions in our first corporate climate change adaptation plan and demonstrate leadership in the community and to our partners. The Sustainable Huron and Water Protection Steering Committees are a great example of where Huron's leading the way, and climate change is often being considered in those meetings and those conversations. Every year, staff are told by committee members as well as speakers that come from near and far that our meetings are providing new information and innovative perspectives and it's a great forum to share ideas that lead to local action or action locally here in Huron towards climate change. Lastly, I'll just briefly touch on implementation, monitoring, and review. So progress on this report will be monitored through annual reports to County Council that will come from myself, the Climate Change and Energy Specialist moving forward. And the plan in general, rooted in resilience, will be formally reviewed every 5 years to determine whether major updates are needed and to understand the progress we've made at that point. With that, I'd like to thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions and comments at this time. Again, I'll just reiterate that this is from information at this date, but it will be brought back to council for final approval in December.
Thank you, Derry. Going to turn to council if there's any questions at this time. Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I don't have any questions for Derry on this report. And if this is the wrong time to bring up something like this, just let me know and I'll do it later when it's appropriate. I had another meeting. But I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to have our climate change expert and maybe our planning department work together on something that can come back to council. I'm a firm believer that the concept of the battery storage for hydro is a good idea and has a lot of benefits to it. The unfortunate part is the companies that are doing the presentations are doing a terrible job of explaining stuff to the public, and I don't think they're doing much better job of explaining stuff to the councils themselves. And let's acknowledge the fact that there may be a lack of trust with these companies coming in, even though they're talking about $400 million individual projects, which could be a good tax base to collect money for the municipalities, and every municipality certainly could have one, but we don't trust them at this point. And I'm wondering if we had information come back from our own staff of the benefits, the positive, the negative, and where, from the planning perspective, they would not interfere with farm production, things like that. We must have areas in the county where these could be situated that would not interfere with farming or urban centers. Is it appropriate to ask for something like that to come back from our staff?
I'm going to respond to that and say that if you were to put forward a motion for that, I think that would be acceptable to council and staff both.
I would be happy to make that motion.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor McClellan seconds that. McClellan, those in favor, and that is carried. So something, Derry, for you and planning to work on. All right. Past Warden McNeil, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. And I'm looking at the first of your two reports, Derry, not the one that you shared, the previous report that you have provided. And it is very informative as to the changes that is predicted. When I see a 4% increase in the annual average temperature, that is substantial, and that's only in the next 25 years. 32 more hot days, 5 heat waves, 8% increase in precipitation, 45 less frost days. That is substantial. And thank you for bringing this forward to us so that we can consider these changes that are suggested in our actions moving forward. Thank you for this. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, thank you. And just to pick up on that, how much 4 degrees is, if you go the other way, the difference between our normal temperature and an ice age is 7 degrees. So 4 is over half of that. That's a lot. But I did want to make one other comment. One of the advantages I think that we have in Huron County is, we have a lot of space, and I don't see too much in the report about ground source heat pumps. And I think there's huge potential for that. We have, all our farm houses are almost all heated, but oil or propane, and there's opportunities to put a pipe in the ground and draw all that heat out and no carbon. And if you could hit on that, I would appreciate that.
Sure, through you, Mr. Warden. Yeah, there isn't maybe an action specifically on ground source heat pumps in the plan, but there is actions related to clean energy and even the report that will show for the home energy retrofit feasibility study that we're having done. That could even outline the potential for ground source heat pumps or heat pumps in general, or different maybe heating mechanisms that we aren't currently using widespread. So that could definitely be an option. I know that's even something that's been brought up through our Sustainable Huron Committee members of interest in that. And some of them have used it and really do have a lot of personal experience and stories to share. And that kind of goes throughout the education piece as well, as sharing those local stories. Because I think if people hear more about how it has been applicable locally and how economic it has been from them, maybe not initially to implement, but over the years, then that can really go a long way in getting that word out that it is locally, we can source it here, and it is beneficial for both the climate, but also just for the individual homeowners as well.
Follow up, Past Warden Ginn?
Yeah, and totally agree and appreciate that. I think education component of it is a big thing, and awareness. And, I just look at things like, chicken barns and the likes of that, we've got 100-acre field right beside the barn. We could run a pipe underneath there and, get rid of that propane. So, good work. And, I think the education side of it really, really, really important.
All right, last call. Not seeing any more questions. Thank you for the report, Derry, and we look forward to that coming back. Do I have someone willing to receive this report today? So Past Warden McNeil would do that. Councillor Noel would second that. Those in favor? That is carried. Is there any notice of motion today? We do have two bylaws. Be looking for first, second, and third reading on those two bylaws. Someone be willing to authorize that for us. Past Warden Ginn, seconded by Councillor Vanstone. Those in favor? That is carried. There is no close to the public session today. There are some upcoming meetings. Make yourself aware of where your responsibilities are within those. And we're at a place where I would be looking for someone to confirm our actions for the morning. Councillor Finch, Councillor Becker, those in favor? That is carried. And perchance, would anyone be willing to adjourn us? Councillor Dietrich, Councillor Heffer, anyone opposed to that this morning? That motion carries. Thank you for your attention to this agenda this morning, and enjoy the rest of your day.